Which two of the following are rights explicitly mentioned in the First Amendment? A. Freedom of speech. B. Freedom of religion. C. Right to bear arms. D. Freedom of assembly. E. Right to a speedy trial. Answer A and B. Which two branches are directly involved in the lawmaking process? A. Legislative branch. B. Military branch. C. Judicial branch. D. Executive branch. E. Administrative branch. Answer A and D. Which three rights are protected by the Bill of Rights? A. Freedom of speech. B. Freedom of the press. C. Right to bear arms. D. Right to vote in all elections. E. Right to run for federal office. Answer A and B and C. Which two actions are considered civic duties for U.S. citizens? A. Voting in presidential elections. B. Serving on a jury. C. Running for Congress. D. Registering for the Selective Service. E. Paying a fine for citizenship. Answer A and B. Which two features are key to the federalism system in the United States? A. Division of power between national and state governments. B. A single centralized government with all power concentrated. C. Shared responsibilities in areas such as education and law enforcement. D. Complete independence of state governments. E. States having no role in national lawmaking. Answer A and C. Which three are rights or privileges reserved exclusively for U.S. citizens? A. Voting in federal elections. B. Running for federal office. C. Freedom of speech. D. Serving on a jury. E. Freedom of assembly. Answer A and B and D. Which two amendments directly address voting rights for U.S. citizens? A. 10th Amendment. B. 19th Amendment. C. 24th Amendment. D. First Amendment. E. 15th Amendment. Answer B and E. Which two steps are required in the naturalization process for new citizens? A. Taking an English test. B. Paying federal income taxes. C. Serving in Congress. D. Participating in the naturalization interview. E. Owning a home in the U.S. Answer A and D. Which three functions are performed by the legislative branch? A. Making laws. B. Declaring war. C. Approving treaties. D. Enforcing laws. E. Overseeing federal agencies. Answer A and B and C. Which two roles belong to the executive branch? A. Enforcing laws. B. Interpreting laws. C. Vetoing legislation. D. Passing amendments. E. Declaring war. Answer A and C. Which two documents are fundamental for understanding the rights and responsibilities of U.S. citizens? A. The U.S. Constitution. B. The Declaration of Independence. C. The Articles of Confederation. D. The Federalist Papers. E. The Bill of Rights. Answer A and E. Which three events were significant in the build-up to American independence? A. The Emancipation Proclamation. B. The Revolutionary War. C. The First Continental Congress. D. The Boston Tea Party. E. The Civil Rights Movement. Answer B and C and D. Which two historical figures played key roles in drafting and promoting the U.S. Constitution? A. James Madison. B. Thomas Jefferson. C. Alexander Hamilton. D. John Adams. E. Benjamin Franklin. Answer A and E. Which two are essential components of the naturalization test? A. Passing an English test. B. Demonstrating knowledge of U.S. civics. C. Learning a foreign language. D. Completing military service. E. Submitting tax returns. Answer A and B. Which three subjects are covered on the U.S. Citizenship Civics Test? A. American government. B. American history. C. U.S. geography. D. International relations. E. Natural science. Answer A and B and C. Select two of the following that are not unalienable rights listed in the Declaration of Independence. A. Life. B. Liberty. C. The pursuit of happiness. D. Freedom of assembly. E. Equality. Answer D and E. Which two responsibilities are highlighted for new citizens during the oath-taking process? A. Taking the oath of allegiance. B. Running for Congress. C. Renouncing loyalty to other nations. D. Owning property in the U.S. E. Paying taxes. Answer A and C. Which three components are part of the U.S. system of checks and balances? A. Veto power of the President. B. Direct election of Supreme Court justices. C. Senate confirmation of cabinet appointments. D. Judicial review by the courts. E. Unilateral lawmaking by Congress. Answer A and C and D. Which two amendments help eliminate barriers to voting? A. 24th Amendment. B. 19th Amendment. C. 10th Amendment. D. First Amendment. E. Fifth Amendment. Answer A and B. Which two roles are part of the President's responsibilities as described in the study guide? A. Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. B. Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. C. Vetoing legislation. D. Speaker of the House. E. Head of the Judicial Branch. Answer A and C. Which three subjects are core topics in the study guide for U.S. citizenship? A. American government. B. Foreign languages. C. Integrated civics, geography and symbols. D. Advanced mathematics. E. American history. Answer A and C and E. Which two political parties are identified as the major parties in the study guide? A. Democratic Party. B. Republican Party. C. Libertarian Party. D. Green Party. E. Independent Party. Answer A and B. Which two positions are part of the executive branch? A. The Speaker of the House. B. The Vice President. C. The Chief Justice. D. The President. E. The Senate Majority Leader. Answer B and D. Which three types of practical tests are included in the study guide? A. Civic education test. B. Reading test. C. Writing test. D. Math test. E. Science test. Answer A and B and C. Which two rights or responsibilities are exclusive to U.S. citizens as mentioned in the guide? A. Voting in presidential elections. B. Running for federal office. C. Freedom of speech. D. Paying taxes. E. Freedom of assembly. Answer A and B. Which two official websites are used to find information about U.S. Congress members? A. www.house.gov. B. www.whitehouse.gov. C. www.senate.gov. D. www.courts.gov. E. www.usa.gov. Answer A and C. Which three principles form the foundation of the U.S. government? A. Popular sovereignty. B. Separation of powers. C. Federalism. D. Absolute monarchy. E. Divine right. Answer A and B and C. Which two pieces of advice are given in the study guide to help with test day success? A. Review notes regularly. B. Memorize all European historical dates. C. Take practice tests. D. Arrive unprepared. E. Ignore the study materials. Answer A and C. Which three topics are covered in the integrated civics section of the study guide? A. World history. B. National symbols. C. American holidays and celebrations. D. American geography. E. Foreign policy. Answer B and C and D. Which two rights specifically pertain to the freedom of the press? A. The right to report news. B. The right to publish opinions. C. The right to bear arms. D. The right to assemble. E. The right to vote. Answer A and B. Which three amendments directly extend voting rights in the United States? A. 15th Amendment. B. First Amendment. C. 26th Amendment. D. 19th Amendment. E. 5th Amendment. Answer A and C and D. Which two civic activities are mentioned as ways citizens participate in their communities? A. Joining a civic organization. B. Serving on a jury. C. Becoming a lawyer. D. Running a business. E. Studying abroad. Answer A and B. Which three factors contributed to the causes of the American Revolutionary War? A. Taxation without representation. B. Unfair British laws. C. The Boston Tea Party. D. The Emancipation Proclamation. E. The Civil Rights Movement. Answer A and B and C. Which two functions are performed by the judicial branch? A. Interpreting laws. B. Enforcing laws. C. Deciding the constitutionality of laws. D. Writing laws. E. Declaring war. Answer A and C. Which two elements are part of the oath of allegiance taken by new citizens? A. Renouncing loyalty to other nations. B. Upholding the U.S. Constitution. C. Joining the military. D. Voting in elections. E. Paying property taxes. Answer A and B. Which three components are essential parts of the U.S. Constitution? A. The preamble. B. The amendments beyond the first 10. C. the Bill of Rights. D. The Articles. E. The Declaration of Independence. Answer A and C and D. Which two roles does the Vice President fulfill? A. Presiding over the Senate. B. Serving as the head of the legislative branch. C. Succeeding the President if necessary. D. Writing executive orders. E. Interpreting laws. Answer A and C. Which three subjects must a U.S. citizenship exam candidate study, according to the guide? A. American government. B. U.S. history. C. Integrated civics. D. European geography. E. Advanced physics. Answer A and B and C. Which two reasons might motivate an immigrant to become a U.S. citizen, as mentioned in the study guide? A. The opportunity to vote in federal elections. B. Access to government benefits. C. Free college tuition. D. Exemption from all taxes. E. Guaranteed employment. Answer A and B. Which three methods allow citizens to participate in their government? A. Serving as a Supreme Court justice. B. Calling representatives in Congress. C. Voting in elections. D. Joining a civic organization. E. Writing to newspapers. Answer B and C and D. Which two events occurred during the American Revolutionary period? A. The Boston Tea Party. B. The signing of the Declaration of Independence. C. The Civil Rights Movement. D. The Civil War. E. The Louisiana Purchase. Answer A and B. Which three events represent territorial expansion in U.S. history? A. The Cold War. B. The Revolutionary War. C. The Mexican-American War. D. The Louisiana Purchase. E. Westward expansion. Answer C and D and E. Which two were outcomes of the Civil War as noted in the study guide? A. The abolition of slavery. B. The preservation of the Union. C. The end of westward expansion. D. The formation of the U.S. Senate. E. The signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. Answer A and B. Which two responsibilities does the President have during wartime? A. Declaring war unilaterally. B. Negotiating treaties. C. Vetoing bills passed by Congress. D. Serving as Commander-in-Chief. E. Appointing cabinet members. Answer B and D. Which three elements characterize the U.S. economic system? A. Private ownership. B. Supply and demand. C. Market-based economy. D. Government-planned production. E. Barter system. Answer A and B and C. Which two duties related to taxation are required of U.S. citizens? A. Filing federal income tax returns. B. Paying taxes on time. C. Collecting sales tax from others. D. Setting tax rates. E. Auditing government spending. Answer A and B. Which three factors contributed to urban growth during the Industrial Revolution? A. A nationwide decline in population. B. Technological innovations in manufacturing. C. Decreased job opportunities in agriculture. D. Expansion of the railroad system. E. Increased immigration. Answer B and D, and E. Which two responsibilities are associated with serving on a jury? A. Listening to evidence in court. B. Reaching a fair verdict. C. Determining the constitutionality of laws. D. Writing new laws. E. Appointing judges. Answer A and B. Which three conflicts were major military engagements involving the United States? A. World War I. B. World War II. C. The War of 1812. D. The Cold War. E. The Spanish-American War. Answer A and B and C. Which two symbols are widely recognized as representations of American freedom? A. The Statue of Liberty. B. The American flag. C. The Liberty Bell. D. Mount Rushmore. E. The White House. Answer A and B.